Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
By any means. It's just that it was, and that's the thing. I feel like a lot of things, this is how I go. So I'm very intuitive, right? I operate from intuition. I do not operate from science. So I just like, I go, yeah, 7 hours works for me. And then the science is like, yeah, 7 hours is good. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking knew that. Or like babies, when women have babies here in America, they put them in another room and like try to let them sleep through the night. And I was like, everything in my gut when I had a baby was like, that is wrong. Come to find out, we're the only country that does that. Every other country, the baby sleeps with the mom. And here they're like, oh no, you'll roll over on him. It's like, no, you guys are not understanding human, God, intuition, spirit. We don't roll over on our babies.
It's interesting because I understand and get that whole side of things, and part of me is like, I just want efficiency, you know? So it's like, part of me is like, part of me is also like, oh, people question, like, take it or leave it. Like, you may not be drunk, so go try some control drinking. It's like, for me, it's like, yeah, isn't there a test for, like, it's curious to me that there isn't a test for alcoholism at this point, where then it's like, then insurance is making money off of it. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't, yes, there's a whole rehab business, but there's no like, you know, test. I mean, I heard someone say like the difference between if you're alcoholic and not is that when you drink, when a non-alcoholic drinks, they get drowsy. When an alcoholic drinks, they get a second wind. You know, and I actually really identify with that. I always had a second wind after I drank. I mean, it says so in Bill's story, like with him, you know, I'll go on again. I'm not going to jump off the roof, like, you know, with all this, you know, stock market stuff. I'm just going to go to the bar, you know?
Well, and I think that's why we work so well together, because you are about the science. You are about the results. You want the Excel sheet. You want the proof. You want the statistics. And I want it's all jello and there's no structure, right? And I think when the two meet, that's where, you know, it's so helpful for the human race, right? Like when science meets intuition, that's when we get IFS systems. That's when we get somatic. I think that's where the mix is good. But like for me, somebody says like, oh yeah, that thing was lost and we've all been looking for it. And I go, if it's lost, like you're never going to find it. Like I'm so surprised when people find out conclusions. I'm just like, really? Like for me, it's all just, it's all mystery and there's no actual knowing.
Yeah. Well, I actually think, you know, Anna's book, Dopamine Nation, like she goes into it and she talks about how the scientific community is actually quite conservative, you know, so all these woo-woo practices of whatever it was, you know, the breathing or, you know, Wim Hof and all these things that, yeah, like there's science and there's tests, they all, at least like the Annas of the world and like the Hubermans are like, yeah, and like, how are we really reading this data? And they're always like subject to change and they're slow to sign on to something.
1,000,000%. And I feel that. That's why I feel like it's important to tell people like, trust your gut. Like people who are looking outside of themselves for the science or for the answers, it's not always going to be there and it's not always going to line up, and they change up and they go, you need to, you know, let your baby cry it out. And then they go, oh, wait, no, you don't. You need to do this. And then 2 years later, they go, oh, actually, you need to do this. That's why it's like, if you're basing what you really, really, really know is right on an outside thing, it's subject to change.
Without a doubt. And for me, this is where the balance comes in. Yeah. You know, it's both. Like for me, It has to be both, because if it's just one or the other, it's like I'm forfeiting, you know, the openness ultimately. But I actually think it's deeper rooted from within, and how I get within like I've done breathwork sessions where I was like, oh fuck, like there was something that happened and I'm more in touch and something opened. There was another portal that opened. So it's literally, it's, you know, it's what you always say, equanimity. It's both of it. And, you know, I was just having a conversation with my friend the other week, like, what the fuck happens to celery juice? Remember all of that craze around the celery? I sell my juicer. Remember the celery juice from the medical medium? The dude was like, was from another portal, and he was whatever, curing whatever he was doing when he was like 5, you know, like this little protege of whatever. Like, he's still around. He's not hawking the celery juice anymore, but it's whatever happened to that.
Well, there was colloidal silver. Like, everything was arranged in colloidal silver. And then that Netflix documentary comes out with people turning blue and mother and mumming, and colloidal silver killed her. You know, it's like all of this is equanimity. All of this is, you know, we can take a good thing and we can make it bad.
Yeah. I think
and we
for
can
me,
take
it's
a
like,
bad thing and we can make it good.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like, I think there's this natural like experimenter / seeker in me. And so I just, you know, it's like, you know, take it on and try it on for size is my whole thing, you know? And so with the science stuff, I just find it like to your point, you're like, yeah, you knew it was 7 hours. It's like, oh, wow, that's cool. You know, it's like, yeah, there's been studies. It's 7 hours. It's not 8 hours, you know? And so I think it's like the balance of both, which I find very exciting.
I agree. I definitely think it's the balance, because my, you know, I'm thinking of that, what's it called? It's like no shape putty or something, you know, just my kind of way that's how I go through things. I am so unexpecting of a real answer, of a concrete answer. And I really am I'm always tripped up when people are like, well, why would you do that? Or what's the thing? I'm like, oh, I don't know, you know? And I'm like, are there other people like me? And they're all too woo-woo. So I do think it's just like the balance. Like you need an Excel sheet and Canva.
Both.
Yeah.
Both are beautiful. But you know what I was going to say? You were saying it's in the mix. And I was about to say, like, yeah, it's in the mix that there's where the magic lies, you know? And that's where, you know, it's, for me, what's exciting is the intersection of both. But it is, for me, it's like the deeply rooted to come from within.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Just like, okay, so just like how we need to attune to our internal self, but we also need to think of it as a whole, right? Like I need to think of all of the people in the community, and I also need to think of myself in relation to that. So it's like, I don't know, there's just so many, I don't know, it's so fascinating.
It's so fascinating. P.S. I just found my notes. I'm going to send them to you after this episode, because you know me and my Google grids. So I found notes to this book, which I am so glad you brought this topic to us, because I'm going to literally reread this. There's like some meaningful questions in here and stuff.
Which book?
It's called The Big Leap.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the person's Gay Hendricks is the dude that wrote this book. I think he's, you know, full on like TED Talk, blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it. It has like a goldfish on the cover. Yeah. I think I started it. I don't know, but I definitely want more. So yeah, that is my that's my journey right now, is to recalibrate the nervous system inside and then watch the results show up on the outside to let me know I've done it, where living a more fiscally enhanced life is okay for my nervous system.
Mm. I'm all about the enhancement.
And you're like, I gotta choose every single word right. Because I am all about some Florence Scovel Shin right now. I am all about we'll get into it afterwards, but I am on a high with so many old thought leaders from the new movement in 1934. But anyways, we'll save that for another day. We're at our final 5, and I have a question for you.
Yes.
When is a time in recent history that you took a moment and noticed the small thing and felt good in that moment and appreciated something that not everybody else would think to take a moment for?
Yesterday, so I was leaving a meeting on my way to meet one of a few sponsees that I meet regularly on Saturdays, and I've been practicing the pause. So in a crosswalk, I stop and I don't look at my phone and I just look around, and I was noticing the light on this building, on 6th Ave somewhere. It just there were lions and the reflection. I was like, whoa, I would never noticed it. And the sun was shining in my face, and I was just I was in my child ultimately, I was swaying. I was just in feelings, in flow, and just literally enjoyed that moment, relishing in it.
I love it.
How about you?
Let's see. Mine was on Friday. I went to a doctor's appointment that was at 9 a.m. and usually I'm supposed to be at work at 9 a.m. But the doctor's appointment took 8 minutes, and I'd already told everybody I wouldn't be there till 10, and I was only 5 minutes away from work. So I walked down to a little bakery, a French bakery, and I ordered a coffee and an almond croissant, and I sat at one of their long community tables, and I didn't put the headphones in. I didn't do the phone. I just sat there and I would dip a little bit of my almond croissant in the coffee and then take a bite and savor how fucking amazing that was and how delicious. And then I would watch the family with their little kid, and I would look at the 2 businessmen that were sitting together with their legs crossed and how much of their socks were showing of their ankles and wondering how expensive those socks were. And I just kind of sat there and was an observer of the whole goings on. And I noticed that in the past, if I'd done that 10 years ago, I would have sat in this French bakery in Beverly Hills, and my head would have been saying, what is everybody thinking about you sitting here by yourself watching them? And I couldn't have done it, and I would have had to put the headphones in, and I would have had to go into my world. But it was so gratifying to sit there and know, 1, they're not thinking about me, they're in their own little lives, and 2, being able to take that in as an observer.
I am really feeling you today as a whole, even more so than I usually do, because what I am hearing is healing, healed past tense. There's a lot of healed past tense, and that there's an openness for more, hence this topic you're bringing. But what I'm really tuning into today is there's a healed part of Misty that I'm for some reason hearing more so than I have in the past, Yay,
that makes me want to cry. Thanks, Sam.
It's fucking awesome. It's so awesome. It's awesome.
All right, well, let's party on. And these bitches better go call their sponsors and like and subscribe and do 5-star, because listen, Sam and I are coming up on our 100th episode soon. And when that happens, here's what I'm proposing, Sam. We do our story. One episode is you doing your story. One episode is me doing my story. And then after that, we are going to need a call for season 2. We need y'all to rally the troops. Give us some love. And we'll see if we get season 2 with 100 episodes.
I'm down.
Fabulous. All right. Thanks, Sam.
Sponsor.
Thanks,
Call
Christy.
your sponsor.
Call you
Call
sponsor.
your
Call you
sponsor.
sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call
Send us
your
an email with
sponsor.
comments, questions, or concerns bcysponsor@gmail.com.
Don't forget to rate 5 stars.